The soccer is here by John Nelson from OSG Sports and the master coach of the York Lions, Carmen Asako. I guess what better thing to start off here than a little gossip? Carmen, I'll start off with you. TFC in the last couple of weeks, they've had a tell-all article, something you would read of a tabloid, and we have Bob Bradley coming out, and people are pointing the finger at other people on the team. We have these campaigns of Bradley out, fans showing up to the stadium extra early just to hate and chant Bradley out, boo him during the introduction. Bernadeschi out of the lineup, and Insigne all of a sudden, he looks like he's the guy that was at Napoli, being a factor. What is your thoughts on the team, just what's been going on the last 2 weeks?
Well, my initial thoughts, I was actually at the game where he got booed, and I know people tell me that's part of the responsibility of being a head coach. It's part of the responsibility of accountability, but for me, it was inexcusable, embarrassing, and that man has accomplished so much in this in this continent and off this continent as a football coach. To be and for me, it's a whole. It encapsulates the new generation. For a man to have to go through that is absolutely inexcusable. And for his family to have to go through that after what he's accomplished as a national team coach in the U.S., like in Egypt, umpteen opportunities in different continents, winning the MLS championship, it's just inexcusable.
He was just on a nice little
on a good rant. But to Coach's point, I'll pick on it a little bit. I think you can boo. I think you can boo. You just can't be an idiot, and there's a difference. Go back to the Can Champ match where the Montreal fans told Toronto FC they were coming. Like, we're coming. They wanted extra security. They didn't get it. And you got fans beating up other fans in the stands. Then at the end of that match, you have, and I don't know if he was a capo or if he was borrowing the megaphone or not, but he felt compelled to yell at Mark Anthony Kaye through a megaphone. Mark Anthony and the media relations folks or the security, they wander over to the supporters section. They wander over to the SG section. And the dude felt compelled to throw the megaphone at Mark Anthony Kaye. And if it was his, then you've wasted somewhere between $50 and $220, depending on how high end that megaphone was. You see that kind of stuff. That's being an idiot. And I hope that all of those folks, and we've heard, 4 were brought up on charges with what happened at Can Champ at BMO. That's all we've heard. I've heard nothing about Megaphone Guy. I've heard nothing about the SG. There's a difference between booing and being an idiot. And what we're seeing these days are more idiots. When you have folks who go after James Sands, and James Sands, I think, took, we went over and talked to the ultras, and I'll use that term, even though they're not. They think they're the Bravo, but they're not. The supporters after the last, I think it was at Citi Field, the last NYCFC match, and when you have a supporter who says, I didn't come here for this, you guys don't care, and the video's out there for anybody that wants to watch it. For James, and then James Sands, I thought, was in his right to, in as much as I think he was too close to the supporters at the time, to say, and it was colorful metaphors aplenty, that just don't tell me that we don't care. Don't tell me that we don't care. And what we're seeing is, I think we're seeing emboldened fans these days. I think they see what's going on in Europe and they feel emboldened, and so they mimic what they see on TV and bring it here to the States and bring it here to this continent. There's a difference between being a fan and being an idiot. We're seeing more idiots, sadly, these days than we're seeing fans.
Well said.
Coach?
Well said.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, Giancarlo, what you're seeing in Toronto right now I mean, you're having Insigne and Bernardeschi going at each other. There was heat there to begin with, and I know that we can take this into a wrestling conversation, but there was legit heat between Insigne and Bernardeschi in the first place. So what do? You go ahead and sign them on the same roster. And you got one who's like, and one goes on social media and sits there and he says, well, I'm second here, second here, second here. Well, when you're second with 4, that ain't a whole lot to be second about. And then you have the other one sit there and go, I don't have any problems. I'm cool. I'm cool with what's going on here in Toronto. It's great. So this legit heat now gets transferred over to Toronto from what happened in Serie A. Coach.
Yeah.
Yay! There he is.
Is there you think they're putting too much into it? Like, you're telling me they're gonna go to another country, be on the same team if they really hated each other? Is that a little is that gossip too on the other end?
Yeah, exactly. That's not gossip. That's not gossip. There's a disconnect all over that place. There's a disconnect between players and Bernardeschi for what he did. And good for the players that called out Bernardeschi, because it's not about you, bud. It's about the whole group, and it's about the team. And you have responsibility on the field. It's even if Bradley isn't doing a good job, you have the responsibility to just work hard and be a great player that you're paid for. Shut up, go out there, do your work. Yeah, it's just a terrible indicator, just a terrible reflection on what Bernardeschi is. And I think that there was beef between Bernardeschi and Insigne from the beginning. I don't think that Insigne and him were on the same page about a lot of things. But right now he's kind of a big fish in a little pond, Bernardeschi, and he's kind of showing his true colors. He was always a role player, if that, with Juventus. He was always a role player, if that, with the Italian national team. And for the limited minutes and the limited impact.
Oh no, another good point, and damn it.
So put a bookmark in that, and then we'll try it again. No, there's legit heat there, and I mean, we saw. I know that we can talk about this as a separate topic, but we can also blend it into what's going on here. Inter Miami fires Phil Neville yesterday, and you wonder now what's going to be happening with Miami and Nick Cushing and NYCFC. They've fallen down the table. What about Bob? But you get into these situations where if you've got somebody like Bob and he's more than one title, then are you hiring one dude or are you hiring 2 dudes? That's the thing. That's the other element in this, that with Bob, you'd have to bring in 2 dudes instead of, just a guy who, unless he's a guy who ends up being the guy, it's 2 dudes that you'd have to bring in, a coach and a sporting director.
Yeah, but I think it's time.
Yeah, we got him.
I think there's got to be they were lucky. They got very lucky because, and I'm not just looking at the but Bill and Bob. That's I think they're 2 very capable people. They've shown they're very capable people. But the people running the show, before this, they were lucky to get Bazbachenko and Vanny. They were lucky to get that Bazbachenko was so tuned into the community, so tuned into the MLS community, tuned into all of that. It was lucky, and that they worked with such integrity, and the Tannenbaum and the MLSE were lucky to have people like that. They need to be better. They need to do their homework a little more, because right now they have no options. This isn't a hockey place. This is a soccer place. They're not being, whether it's consulting, whether it's whatever, they're not. They don't have the proper consultants telling them the right things to do right now. It's an absolute mess from top to bottom, and no one knows who's responsible for what. Even at the academy level, there's just And I'm not pointing the finger at Bill by any means, but I am saying that MLSE needs to have an established hierarchy and an established roles, because right now there's nothing there. It's nothing there. And you know what? I was privy to that at a different generation. So they need to kind of get not only the board together to say, hey, let's talk to maybe some fans. Let's talk to some people that know and say, hey, what's going on here? How can we fix this? And Bill and Bob should be part of it. But if they don't, meet the standard in the end, and they need to establish what those standards are. For soccer, they still don't know what those standards are. For the Leafs, they'll tell you, we need to make the playoffs. We need to get by the first round. We blah 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 blah. These are the key performance indicators. What are the key performance indicators for Toronto FC? They have no idea. They have no idea what they're doing with this group, what the culture and the history is, and how and what they just kind of have it there as a little bit of a toy. And then my rant is about MLSE maybe taking the time to surrounding with people that could be good at analysis or analyze what the situation really is, because right now they have no clue. MLSE, all right, MLSE does not have a clue on what's going on and what their direction is, and what they're just cutting in things from the academy. They're cutting things from a lot of areas, and that's fine. If they want to be financially responsible and all that stuff, that's fine. But what's the purpose? I don't know the purpose anymore. I'm not sure what the purpose is of is it to win right now? Is it to have a sustainable future? Is it right? Like, what is it right now? And thank the Lord for those 20,000 yahoos and those guys even throwing the mics who are invested in this team for over since 2007. So thank the Lord for them, because they love this team and this is their team. But there's no connection between MLSE and soccer in general in this group, for me.
And also, do you think there was just a coincidence that Lorenzo Insigne all season, finally, the first time he spoke to the media was to do damage control, came in all smiles, the translator, he was cracking jokes. You never even heard the guy talk really till last year. And do you think now this is going to be a cooler heads prevail type of thing, or do you think this is going to linger on now that the transfer window in Europe is going to be opening up soon?
Coach?
Sorry, can I just finish, Johnny? I apologize.
Yeah.
Just one quick point. Would Austin Matthews ever have the audacity, knowing the culture and what Toronto Maple Leafs means to this country, would he ever have the audacity to do what Bernardeschi did? He hasn't earned the right, no matter who he is. If he's the best player in the NHL, Toronto Maple Leafs are way above all that. Insigne and Bernardeschi, they just come in here entitled. It's about them before the group, and it's about them before the team. For me, that's unacceptable. For me, that should have been nipped in the bud and should be the culture building moment right from the beginning. Right? These are our leaders, Bill Manning and Bob Bradley. These are our leaders, and this is why, and this is Toronto FC above them. But our club isn't right now not above the audacity of Bernardeschi to do what he did. It's not above Insigne going around like his poop doesn't stink, and we're so grateful that he puts in a good effort against DC United. Come on. That's culture establishment. That's establishing something, saying, hey, I don't care who you are. We pay you for what you've done, but this is what you need to do. This is the time to be a big part of it. But suspending Bernardeschi one game and putting him again, for me, is not enough.
Ooh.
Sorry, John.
No, I wanted you to take it. I mean, honestly, I think that Bernardeschi does what he does on Twitter. Everybody laughed. Basically, they're like, "Yeah, you're saying that your ish doesn't stink with the. You're saying I was second year. Yeah, but second year on a crappy team with the numbers. Next time you want to talk to your social media manager before you post something like that. I think Insigne is going to continue laughing at Bernardeschi as long as the two of them continue to have this legit heat. And Insigne is going to. And the reason Insigne is laughing is because everybody's pointing at Bernardeschi. It's like, yeah, look what he's doing. And Insigne can sit there. He can afford to stand. He can afford to be there for that press conference and laugh and crack jokes because he ain't the one that's getting, thrown under the bus and getting driven back over. It's like literally, it is, and Insigne's driving the thing. It's like he's driving that TTC bus, and it's like, what was
Off the
that?
rails.
It's like, it's like you're driving down the QEW, you run over something, you feel it, and then your passenger sitting there, what was that? Oh, I don't know. Let's find out. And you hit it in reverse and you go back over it again. I don't know. What was that? I don't know. I still can't figure it out. You put it back in drive, you run over it again. Insigne will drive that TTC bus as many times as he can on the QEW route from Pearson to downtown to BMO Field on the lakeshore, as long as he can run over Bernadeschi when he does it. I mean, that's why he's cracking jokes, because the other guy, the guy that he's got legit heat on, is the one who's being made the fool at the moment. They both need to get their heads screwed on straight. They're both probably going to leave soon because of all of this chaos that's going on right now. But, yeah, of course, infighting is going to make folks laugh. If it's not you that's being fought. So it's a mess. Absolutely, it's a mess.
Makes you appreciate Sebastian Jovinko a lot more.
Ah,
He's out there. I'm just saying. He's a free agent.
But
He's in Vaughan, spending time.
Yeah,
he's available.
Stop. He's 72 years old.
But how many times did Greg Vanny and Tim Bazbachenko put him in his place? How many timeouts did they give him?
It worked.
Right?
He didn't go on like a rant like Bernadeschi.
They surrounded and invested Josie Altidore. They surrounded him with an invested Victor Vasquez. They surrounded him with, players with. For me, like Kosi Thompson doesn't come off the field anymore because of the passion and the sacrifice that he's put into everything as a 2003 born player. Come on, like and to be fair, Insigne kind of rubbed off when he was good. The rest of the group was good. It's true. Insigne has the impact to do that to the group. And he did. Jovinko had the impact to do that for the group. And he did. Insigne has done it once or twice. And obviously Jovinko's done it a lot more with a lot more positive reinforcements. But yeah, it's kind of, the reason they got rid of Pozuelo, Jimenez, it was the same things that are kind of, they're recycling more. What's that Czechoslovakian word that's used? Glitch, whatever. John, you'll find it out. The Czechoslovakian word for not so nice or poop or that's kind of what exists, and they keep recycling that, and it can't happen. We want honest players out there. We want. You know what? We want, there was a point last year, I think they won 6 games in a row with Lucas McNaughton and Kosi Thompson and then, players of that ilk. It was, and, obviously they're missing the heart and soul, Jonathan Osorio. But that's what the fans want to see right now. That's what the fans really want to see right now. And if you look at some of the players out there, they're doing it. And with Mark Anthony Kaye, he puts his unit on the line every day there. I mean, and people criticize him, and he'll take it, but he's sweating blood and tears every day. Jonathan Osorio hurt, but when he was there, he's the same. A lot of people should take the same, and that's how you make an influence. Not going on Twitter and saying stupid things. You make an influence by doing it on the field. And Kosi Thompson came in and did the same, as far as I'm concerned. Luria, are you kidding me? He puts in a shift every single day. So all that stuff, for me, it's those are the values that built this organization when they're at their best, and they got to get back to those. Not enough of the bells and whistles, enough of the pageantry. Let's get back to the values that made this club really good between for 4, 5, 6 years back then.
And I guess final couple topics here on TFC, because of, again, it's been the story even on Apple TV, what they've been talking about. But like Bob Bradley, how do you go on from here? Now that you know all this is going on, you see that the seat's a little warm, it's toasty right now. How do you go on with your job and just get things going, get everybody on the same page, and try to get some of your young players like Kosi Thompson, how to continue that kind of performance all year, Carmen?
There's two ways to go about it. Bob, don't worry about it. Everything's good. We want you to take this group, the group that you believe in, and go with it. Or, Bob, thank you very much. I think we're going to go in a different direction because of it, and it's no fault of you. With all due respect, I don't think you deserve what's happening to you. But I think it's time for a change. I think it's time for an evolution. But for me, if that happens, it's going to be it's kind of going to be for me. If it's Bob Bradley, it's also Bernardeschi, and for at least Bob Bradley and Bernardeschi at the same time. Because if Bob goes out without Bernardeschi, then MLSE is showing that Bernardeschi was right and Bob was wrong, or whatever situation that whatever narrative you choose to select. But that's, for me, there's those two options. Come out in the media and say Bob's our guy. We want him to fix this situation, right? And we want to give him the responsibility, because if you tell me Bob Bradley wanted Bernardeschi here, I don't know. Bob Bradley wanted Insigne here, I don't know, because he built a pretty good team at LAFC, and he did a lot of homework. So I'm not sure this is his fault, and I'm not sure that he really needs this crap.
Yeah, and John, like Bob Bradley, he's been around. Obviously, he's done a lot for the game. But do you have that notion, or does a thought maybe creep in at some point? Like if you see his press conference, I believe it was on Tuesday of this week, he was a little upset. Do you just put your hands up and you're like, you know what? I'm a little too old for this crap right here. Thanks for the offer here. I'm gonna go pursue other jobs that allow me to actually have full control, or do you just stay and deal with this at this stage of your career?
I don't think it's Bob's decision to make. I think to Coach's point earlier, I think it's those above him that have got to come down and pull the trigger and sit there and say, this isn't working. And then you have to make the decision but the thing is, first, do you go to the summer window and then the ingoings, the incomings and outgoings, whether we're talking Bernardeschi and Insigne, are they leaving? Who's staying? Who's going? You'll know who wins the argument if one does and one doesn't. Is this a full sale thing? I mean, Bob in Los Angeles wanted to prove a point. And he wanted to prove a point with high-priced talent, young bench, short bench, and try to get something done that way. And the same thing is happening in Toronto. You're bringing in high-priced talent, young bench, short bench, and it's not working again. You tried to address the issues at the back. You've had some injuries this year. Yes, you brought in Sean Johnson. Yes, you brought in Matt Hedges, but Hedges has been injured. So it's the same thing that's happening. It's just in a different location. And in Toronto right now, you're not winning. In LA, you were winning. In Toronto, you're not. And so it's got to come from the front office as to what does Bill Manning want out of this? Are you going to spend more money to try to fix the problem, which is what MLSE likes to do, regardless of which property we're talking about? Or are you going to say, as Coach has been mentioning this morning, is it a systemic issue? I mean, full disclosure, last weekend, Toronto FC 2 came to town to play Atlanta United 2. We had the game on the radio. No player over the age of 23 that's a part of TFC 2. But at the same time, you didn't have the likes of a Jacob Schaffelberg, who we've seen in years past, whether it's been in USL Championship, League One, what have you, that you could sit there and say, okay, you're setting the world on fire. I anticipate a future with you with the first team. There's a lot of good talent, but I don't know if you're going to continue to spend money to fix a problem, how many of the guys currently at TFC2 are going to get the chance to crack the lineup anymore. So it's the board has to look at itself. MLSE has to look at itself, figure out what you want to be. And then is Bob Bradley a part of this, or is Bob Bradley a part of it? Yes or no? And if he is, are we going to try to develop at the same time, like we've seen in places like Philly and Atlanta and Red Bulls and Dallas and all that? Are you going to have that kind of development in addition to bringing in high-priced talent? or are you going to rely on high-priced talent like you've done, minimize the effect of the academy, and try to do things that way and just have academy as something as a serviceable entity? And so there's a lot of questions here with Toronto, and I don't know. I think that the summer window will give us a lead as to where the answers are coming from, but I don't know if they'll give you all of the answers that you're looking for.
On that note, we'll go to Atlanta. John,
Mhm.
what have you? I know they had a postponed game with LAFC, but
They're kind of busy. That's gonna so it's not this Saturday night. It's going to be Wednesday because Sunday is the second leg of CONCACAF Champions League, and you've got some work to do against Leon. You're down 2-1, so the LAFC lineup will be very interesting going up against Atlanta United on Wednesday because of the pushing of the schedule and things like that.
so what do you think that will do for them? Because last game, the
Hadn't
end
played,
there,
they won't have played in the week. They will, instead of having to go weekend, midweek, weekend, they get a full week to recover and be ready for this match against LAFC, where LAFC had to play for their lives in CONCACAF Champions League and then turn around in short order to take on Atlanta United. So it's a different lineup idea that you're staring at here with Atlanta United. They get a full week to recover.
do you think that's positive though? Because last game, what happened at the end, how like New England came back
All right.
last minute.
Hang on, stop. All right, right now, I mean, Yorgos Giacomakis is still on a bit of a pitch count, and that you are hoping that all of this extra time and getting adjusted and getting adjusted and getting adjusted. He was the Gonzalo Pineda mentioned after the match that they played him for more minutes than they wanted to initially, that they had written down, because he wasn't having to go all the way down to one end of the field and have to come back and come to the other end of the field and do both work offensively and defensively. Most of it was in the attacking half. So right now you're staring at the idea of Yorgos Giacomakis continuing to get healthy. You saw a goal by Miguel Berry, who was brought in to be that backup striker. You brought him in from his time in D.C., and you hoped that he was the guy in Columbus. You're hoping that the goal that he scored against New England is, a precursor to what's going on. But what you can't do is you can't give up a goal in the first minute on a passing connection that wasn't crisp. You can't give up a goal against the run of play. You can't do that. You're down 2-0 at home, but you show the fight at home in front of 30-something thousand folks, and you come back and you take a lead 3-2, and you're trying to see the game out and all this kind of stuff. Carlos Hill beat you to the short side. Carlos Hill beat Brad Guzan to the short side. Brad's not the first keeper that's happened to, and it won't be the last. I tried to see if there was any kind of a screen. There wasn't. There was a little window that was there. Carlos Hill did what Carlos Hill does. You end up with a 3-3 draw. That's the third time that, by the way, a Bruce Arena team has given up 3 goals in a match. 3 times in a row they've given up 3 goals. They've only won one of those. They've had to fight back to get 2 draws in those 3 games that they've given up the 9 total goals. No, I mean, obviously, most high-powered offense in Major League Soccer, and the most porous defense right now in Major League Soccer. So it's you got to get to the summer window. Garth Lagerwey and Carlos Bocanegra have said that there's some stuff that they're going to be looking at. Obviously, Luis Araújo's heading to Flamengo. That's the first part of this. Luis is there until June 24th at the match at Red Bull Arena. So we'll see what happens in the summer window. Garth has admitted publicly in interviews, he's admitted in stuff that we've done with him, that you've got to rip the Band-Aid off. And that's what this is. This is that first season and trying to get everything squared away under the cap to where you can work long-term and you can have those long-term things and the success that he had in Seattle.
Well, speaking of success, I'll start with you, Carmen. Cincinnati's rolling right now. I wasn't expecting this kind of team to lead the table the way they have, but every week they're finding a way to just look more and more impressive. They're 11-3-1 right now. They have a nice, comfortable lead there in first. Like, do you think they'll sustain this throughout the year, or do you think eventually, the results won't go their way?
Mind you, who was the one who predicted that Cincinnati were going to make the playoffs last year? Who?
That'll be you.
And what did John Nelson say? No, juice.
And so he bumps himself off the air. He gets so excited he bumps himself off the air to talk about it.
Oh, I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, now we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, no, I think that yeah, first in the East, no one would have predicted this, but I think that everything that's coming to fruition of their plan, I think it's, the main recipe for their success is exactly what other teams don't have. Whether it's Inter Miami, whether it's Toronto FC, it's that continuity, that cohesion, that resilience. Like, I hate to say it, and it's nothing to do with, people give coaches and trainers or too much credit at times, but building that cohesion, yeah, it's incredibly important. Are they more talented than other teams in the league? No, absolutely not. Even like a New England, you watch them and they're honest, decent. Carlos Gil is sure a special player, but they're not more talented than any other team. And they're, it was, other than last year, which was a bit of a hiccup, they're top three, top 4 or 5 in the league. But those are the things that to matter most for me to win in the MLS. And that's what Cincinnati has right now. Are they going to go through a downturn? Absolutely. Absolutely, they're going to have moments where 2-3 players are key for them.
Well, and you find out a substitute. You got to figure out what you're going to do for Brenner now that Brenner's going to Europe.
Yeah, and there's different situations, but I feel that organization is ready to deal with it. They're ready to deal with the idea of next man standing. I think their roster's put together of players that might not do obviously the same thing, but have an impact in different ways, but it's always going to lead to finding ways to win for me with that group.
And John, like, they have 8 points ahead there. It's comfortable. Like, if you're their management, you start shopping around. Like, maybe you can persuade one of these big names to come over if they're the right fit, or do you just keep on with the same roster and just see where they take you?
I want to see what they do with the money that they brought in for Brenner. And that, I mean, why mess up something that ain't worth messing up right now? And I think that literally it might be a piece here, a piece there, something that could, shore up a depth edge or something like that, and then filling in the Brenner part of the whole equation. But no, I think that what you've seen from Pat Noonan and Chris Albright has been basically Philly West when it comes to Philadelphia Union. And they have found a way with those players to come up with, I mean, when you have Lucho Acosta and Brandon Vasquez working as well as they are together right now, you're not going to mess that up. You're not going to sit there and it's like, okay, let's see if we can blow it up and figure out what we can do. You're going to continue to have all that work together. Matt Miazga's doing, work at the back, and you're getting great keeping from a young kid in Roman Celentano, who they picked up through the draft last year. So when you've got Roman Celentano, who's one of the hot keepers over the last year, say, in Major League Soccer, you've got Acosta, who's a pain in the butt, and we all know he's a pain in the butt. He was a pain in the butt in DC. He's a pain in the butt in Cincinnati, and Brandon Vasquez, and they can play off of each other in a two-man game. That means that you've got to be worried about 2 guys. That means that you've got to take at least 2, if not 3, if you believe in man marking. 3 to be on the safe side, because one of the lessons that Jason Longshore taught me first, you always want to have one more guy in defense than they do in attack. So that means that when you're playing Cincinnati, you've got to have at least 3 back, keeping an eye on Acosta and Brandon Vasquez the whole time. But no, Albright and Noonan have done really well. You've got a keeper that's young, and he's kept them in a lot of matches. So it's going to be tinkering. I don't think it's going to be anything massive. Why should it? You've got some distance. They are, I think, going to regress to the mean a little bit. How much, I don't know. And especially late in the year, do you tire yourself out? So that's going to be the biggest questions for me with Cincinnati.
And time to transition here to another big story out of Paris. Leo Messi won't be returning. So, Carmen, where do you think he will land? Like, Miami, obviously, they're not helping their case right now. They're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I don't think they'll be in the hunt there. Barcelona, their hands are a little tied right now. And then there's that lucrative Saudi Arabia option. Where do you think Messi goes?
I mean, Messi seems to be like a simple, very traditional person. Is he going to? I mean, imagine the future of $200 million a year or whatever it is. Imagine the future with that. Whether it's building the game, whether it's building, generations of his family. So you understand that that's going to be tough to turn down. But he gets that organization back to glory if he goes back there, not just with his on-field stuff, but mostly with his off-field stuff. And I think that's the purest decision, and he's always made pure decisions. So for me, that again, I've been wrong 9 times out of 10, except for Cincinnati last year. But I do think that he's going back to Barcelona, and it's the purest move he can make.
John, do you think he's going to MLS now that Miami is tanked, or do you think now it's going to go somewhere else?
My money has always been on him being an ambassador for the Vision 2030 project in Saudi Arabia. When they come after you for 1.2 extra, a double extra large, as a part of your contract, I think that Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema, I think he's going to Al Ittihad, CR38's at Al Nasser. And so it's just trying to figure out where you want Lionel Messi as a part of this lineup. Does he go to Al Hilal or something like that? And so that way you've got those 3 big guns in the Saudi Pro League. Hugo Lloris has mentioned that he might be heading over to the Saudi Pro League to get a paycheck, those kinds of things. Miami, for me, as much as I'd love for that to happen, and that Don Garber would sit there and make a Messi rule, much like he did a Beckham rule when David Beckham was coming over to get the franchise, ironically, to enter Miami. I think there's too many things to do where Lionel Messi is concerned with your own finances and your league bylaws to try to bring him in. There's the black helicopter theory that you could sit there and go, well, what you could do is you could sign him to enter Miami, and then you could loan him to Barcelona. And I'm like, really? Barcelona can't buy a ham sandwich on the corner. They can't call Pizza and dial all 5s and get a pepperoni right now. They can't do that. They can't go to Zeller's, get an Aero bar, and expect to get a loonie for change. They can't do that. They cannot do that right now. I mean, they've got Spotify.
In show A, are you Bob and Doug McKenzie? Take off, eh?
Actually, yes, exactly right. I mean, they can't go to Swiss Chalet, and they can't, and they can't go to the buffet. They can't go to Tim Hortons and get a bucket of Timbits. They can't afford that stuff.
Yeah, but if Inter is their target, and if Messi is their target with an Arby's, I can't match you today, Johnny. You're on fire.
I hit the Sonic.
Get a beef
in and out.
Get a beef and cheddar at the Arby's. No, you can't do that. You can't get pommes frites at the Golden Arches right now. You can't do it.
Are you saying John Carmen Asaco's taking us for lunch now, or what?
Yeah. You can't go to Nino Diversa and
That's right. That's right, John.
You can't. Barca just can't afford it. They say, well, we want this guy, this guy, this guy, this. You can't afford it, son. You can't. You cannot afford it. You can't go to Wayne Gretzky's Steakhouse, look through the window on the front there just off of King Street and go, gee, that looks pretty. That's about all you can do. You can sit there and look at the lunch crowd through the window at Wayne Gretzky's Steakhouse and go, yeah, I want that. That's all you can do. That's all Barca can do right now.
They're just a P.F. Chang world right now. They're just in a P.F. Chang world.
They can't even afford that buffet.
On that note, we're going for lunch now. John, start us off. Tell everybody how they get a hold of you.
Easiest ways on the Twitters right there at OSG Nelson. Don't forget to download the Soccer Down Here app and the OSG Sports app and soccerdownhere.net. Spreaker for those of you that are on iOS. And do a search for Soccer Down Here on OSG Sports. Also right there, Noble Strong Lessons in Destiny, Book 6. You can pick that up. Do an Amazon search for John J.O.N. Nelson. I'm an H-less John. Great story about high school football and a family that meant a lot to a very small town. So very, very cool stuff on both regards.
All right, Giancarlo.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, John_411, Instagram, Giancarlo_Alino. Check out my articles on firedupnetwork.ca and sportskid.com. And if you're in Toronto, check me out on Vibe 105.
And we're doing a new segment as we close this out. Asako's picks. Stanley Cup starts tomorrow. Who you got?
The
Bears.
I don't know. Florida's been a pretty exciting story. I think they're most rested. I think they have the most experience. I'm going to go with Florida. I don't know
And
why.
Giancarlo wants you to go Vegas because Phil Kessel is going to be a three-time Stanley Cup champion.
Hall of Famer, Phil Kessel.
By the way, John, if Phil Kessel wins the Stanley Cup, hot dogs are on you. All right? And Carmen, how about NBA Finals? Who you got, Denver or Miami?
I'd love to see Denver win, but you can never count Miami out. I think that's going to be a great series. I think that's just a swagger team, Miami. But Denver is it's two opposite worlds. But the Denver, other than this is a stupid comment, but other than Jokic, Denver is really like us, the Celtics. So.
Well, some people in Kitchener may disagree. Murray there.
Good Canadian kid.
Yeah, no, good Canadian kid's on fire too. And Jokic, I think, only had to score like 25 points last night. And
27.
Murray had So, I mean, yeah, but I just think Miami's too loose, too free-flowing. They can score a lot of points when they want to. I think that's going to be a good series. I want Denver to see Denver to win. Because I'm a fundamentals type of guy, but and it would be good to see a city like Denver win a championship as well. But I think Miami's gonna push them.
Finally, John, listen to this one. Finally, who's your pick in the National Lacrosse League Championship Cup final? Yeah. Go ahead. I'm not even telling him who is in it. Go ahead. Pick Denver. Colorado. But go ahead, Carm.
The Toronto Rock.
No.
The Rock and the Gold Horseshoe, baby.
All right, John, tell them who's going to win.
The Buffalo Bandits.
The Colorado Mammoth are going to prevail. Colorado's going to have a daily double with the National Lacrosse League title and the NBA title. Book it, Carm. If I'm wrong, John Nelson will get you a hot dog from Phil Kessel's.
Maybe with Buffalo, if they win, they can show the Bills what a championship looks like.
Ooh.
Giancarlo will never be on the show once again. Here, he's suspended for 1 week. I'll see him next Friday. All right. Thank you for watching the soccer show here on the Fired Up Network.
Joe, I played for the Buffalo Blizzard as well. We were never close to a championship.
No, you played for the Buffalo Blizzard for chicken wings. How were the chicken wings in 1960 in Buffalo?
You think I stayed over one night there? I commuted.
You drove back home. Right. You drove back home across the Peace Bridge. You wasn't kidding.
For John Freeman Nelson, the Hall of Famer, Giancarlo Alino, and Carmen Asako, this is the Soccer Show. Stay tuned for more great programming here on the Fired Up Network. Have a great weekend, guys. Be good.